When I get junk mail that includes an envelope that says no postage necessary, I stuff as much of the junk they sent me back in that envelope and mail it back to them. What are some of the things you do to annoy those that annoy you? I tried to delete my Plenty of Fish account, but every time I hit the delete button it wouldn't work. Tried contacting support and no help was provided, so I deleted all my personal information off of my account and added a picture of goats. I got deleted right away. That's some classic Redditor thinking right there. Totally unrelated, but when I get a junk fax, I usually will fax back a dark colored piece of paper and put in tiny words with a white background. Don't ever fax your spam again. Hope you still have toner. I had a coworker that always tried to make her life seem the toughest by one-upping everyone's day. I worked a shift with her and one other guy, so I started to battle back. I asked why my male coworker looked so tired. His response would be, "Oh, I only got like 5 hours of sleep. I had a 10-page paper last night." She chimed in with, "Well, I only got 3.5 hours of sleep because I had 2 papers." I would then pip up, "Well, I only got 3 hours and 29 minutes of sleep and had 2 papers and a thank you letter to sign." So yeah, I always upped her by the smallest of margins. "Oh, you had a 1,000 word essay in class? I had a 1,008 word essay. Your roommate took an hour-long shower? Mine took a 61-minute shower and brushed his teeth." I don't like negativity, but enjoy sarcasm so much. Well, I had a coworker who always tried to make her life seem even tougher by 2-upping everyone's day, and I worked 2 shifts with her and 2 other guys. I've done the same thing, but ripped it up into tiny pieces first, then included an invoice from SCGTRP's document shredding services. I don't know, junk mail does not bother me like junk email. I enjoy walking to a mailbox that has mail in it. I am sad when it is empty. There is something strangely poignant about your comment. Before I moved, a lot of religious people of different nationalities would come to my old place. I would only do this to Hispanics that came to my door because they speak English and Spanish. I speak both languages and am also learning Japanese. I'd answer the door and would be immediately handed a religious pamphlet. If they began in English, with a confused look I would say, "I don't understand you," in Spanish. They'd start over in a Spanish and with a more confused look I would say, "I'm sorry, I still don't understand." In English anything they said after that, I'd respond in Japanese until they left. You'd have been fricked if they responded in Japanese. Capital fricking One would not stop sending me credit card offers. I'm talking 8-10 a month. I finally opened one up, called the number to opt out. They wanted like 24 questions answered before I could get off the list, so I tried doing it online, which was even worse. The easiest method I found was to file a complaint with the Better Business Bureau for the harassing volume of junk mail and impossible opt-out process. 2 days later I get a lengthy email from BBB with attached correspondence from Capital One. Got my name off their list and wasted about 20 minutes of their time. I continually get emails from Disney. I purchased one freaking gift from them, and they email me non-stop. I've tried everything, using the unsubscribe all options, modifying my account settings, deleting my account, the whole 9 yards. I still get message. Now, I have set up filters in my email such that for every email I receive from them, I send a copy of this message 10x to their contact us email. I have tried unsubscribing from your crap. It doesn't work. I no longer wish to receive these messages. As a token of my annoyance, this message will be repeated 10 times for every email I receive from you. Unsubscribe me. Too bad now your messages are caught by their spam filter. I'm really short. Because of this, people don't try to avoid running into me because they think I'll move out of the way. I think both parties should move to the side a little, unless one of us is walking close to the wall or a street or something. Otherwise, whenever someone is about to run into me, I just stop and brace for impact. I used to do this, but I've gotten so good at weaving in and out of crowds I don't think anyone even notices me anymore. My uncle was trying to fax an insurance report to the company a while ago, but every time he called to see if it got through, they said they didn't have it. So he fed it halfway through the fax machine and taped the top to the bottom, hit send, When he called to ask if they got it, they said yes. Yes, we did. We get calls from duct cleaning services, like house air ducts, all the time. I always say sorry, we don't own ducts and keep repeating that when they try to explain. There is a Monty Python sketch in there somewhere. I get calls from the same number at least a few times a week. I have asked them to stop calling multiple times as they always ask for an Eric, which I said my name, and I've had the same number for over 10 years. I began just ignoring the calls thinking there's nothing I can do about it. Now when they call, I try to either run to the bathroom and just answer with the sound of taking a pee, or run to my laptop and throw on some disgusting loud pee. They still call, but it makes me feel a little better. Okay, so we used to get loads of telemarketer phone calls asking to speak to the person who pays the telephone bill, and it used to really annoy me, cause I'd have to get up from the sofa, walk over to the phone and hang up on them. So one day I decided to tell one of these poor people that we didn't have a telephone. I spent the next 5 minutes insisting that we had no phone in the house. When she asked what I was speaking to her on, I just said that her voice came out from behind a TV like some sort of god who deals only in telephone bills. Anyway, she started to get more and more angry, until she hung up on me. I must have got us put on some sort of blacklist, cause since that day we haven't had any more telemarketer calls. I use these to send genuine mail. Just cover the printed address with a label and write on top. Never even left the long barcode showing. Just the post office prepaid stamp. Never failed so far. Make sure to put a return address just in case. Sounds mildly fraudulent. I wouldn't want the post office police after me. They know where everybody lives. A buddy of mine went all out on this. He went down and asked the post office what the weight limit was. I know price limit ended up being around $40. However much weight that is. He attached it to a box of bricks and trash and sent it back to them. Complete waste of time, but he was extremely happy with himself. People saying this stuff doesn't get delivered, but I assure you it does. I used to work for a certain customer satisfaction survey company that would send out surveys to automobile buyers with a return envelope. We once received a box with our return envelope taped to the front of it. There was an old automobile clutch plate in the box, and we definitely had to pay for that shipping. I also do this, but I normally have pre-printed photos of my butt I include with the junk. Also, fill out the junk paperwork with fake names, and put the butt photo last. This way they will begin to process the paperwork, and then get acid. Not the same, and I did it more out of curiosity, but I once mailed the same piece of junk mail to myself for 2 weeks straight. Once I got it in the mail, I would take it to work and drop it in the mail slot there. Work was across town. 2 days later, it would be in my box again. Don't know how much it cost the post office or the junk people. I could only hope that the PO kept charging them every time I mailed it to myself. But I found it pretty funny to know that the mailman had to keep putting it in my box. I have a strong suspicion that it only costs the post office money. You can drop envelopes back in the mail when they are delivered to the wrong address. With prepaid postage this works and won't cost the sender any more money. When a telemarketer calls, I only respond with yes. Hello, I'm calling from phone company and we would like to offer you this new phone. Do you already have a phone? Yes. But sir, this is the new Jazz Bedazzled smartphone. We can offer you a better deal than your current telephone service provider. Would you be interested in this phone for one money, give or take? Yes. Can I get your information? Sir? Yes. Who is your current telephone company? Yes. Sir? Yes. Sir? Are you already a customer of phone company? Yes. Okay. Can I get your name and address? Yes. Sir, what is your name and mailing address? Yes. Sir, I cannot help you unless you can give me your information. I need you know your first and last name and your mailing address. Yes. I know this was just an example, but if a telemarketer called me on my phone asking me if I had a phone, I'd probably just crack up laughing. About once a week, I receive a text along the lines of "Have you been mis-sold payment protection insurance? Reply to this message if you think you are eligible, and we'll call you back. It could be up to £3,000. Usually I ignore them. but sometimes they say they actually have £3,000 waiting for me in my name, and it's at this point I respond to it. A few days later, I get a call from a different company telling me my details were forwarded to them, with instructions to give me a call. I usually speak in broken English, and ask them repeatedly why they are calling. After a while they start asking questions such as how much was the loan and when did you take it out. If I'm particularly bored at work, usually, I'll keep them on as long as possible, before revealing that the £20,000 I borrowed was from a friend. They usually hang up pretty quickly after that. You should watch out for text spam. Some of them are phishing. They want you to reply in some way. By you texting them in return, you are giving them permission to charge you a fee that you will see on your phone bill. When my dad pays bills to big businesses, he overpays by around $0.50 so that they send him a refund check, which he will never cash. Then the company will keep sending him a check for $0.50 every few months. He just rips them up and thinks it is hilarious that an accountant somewhere is furious he can't balance the account. TLDR. Dad overpays slightly to get refund checks from large companies, then rips them up and laughs. Had to take a friend to Walmart and just stayed in the car. Noticed a very nice Audi TT driving around the parking lot looking for the spot. Entitled B. Decided to park in the, for lack of a better term, unload area between two handicapped spots. I had nothing better to do, so I got out of the car after her and her yip dog got into the store and surrounded the car with as many carts, buggies to some, as I could find, before someone decides to rip me a new one. Both handicapped spots were still perfectly accessible and there was a place to park a van had there been a need at another unload area. I commend you for this. People can be real buttholes when it comes to parking spots. My mom had me working on phonics at 8 months old, so I could talk to an extent from a very young age. When I was young, anytime a telemarketer would call, she'd hand the phone to me. A 2-year-old capable of forming actual sentences is a force to be reckoned with. Funny, I just had this conversation with someone last night. My answer to them was, I kill them with kindness. I am so appalled by the idea of getting into a confrontational situation that I just use kindness in a suspicious way. I feel like it almost deters the person from wanting to speak to me, sell to me, annoy me if I'm just D8 all up in their face. It totally works, too. When Jehovah's Witnesses come by, I pretend to be gay, come onto them uncontrollably and make horribly inappropriate innuendos, until they leave. When I play Chrono Trigger, even if I have full health, I always eat that snitch boss mother-ass lunch in Lean Square every time I walk by there, just because he testified against me in the trial. Thug life. My dad is an incredibly patient man that lives his life just to troll people. Whenever telemarketers call, he would answer the phone and listen to their whole sales pitch. After a while he will respond with a, I don't know, which triggers them to keep talking and keep them trying to convince him of their product. After more, he will say, well, that actually sounds pretty good, but I'm not entirely sure if it's right for me, and off with another number of questions and explanation of why he should buy it. There was literally a time he was on the phone with one for an hour and a half, giving them hope he will buy what they are selling, but at the end of all of it he would say, nah, I think I'm okay. Buy and just hang up on them. I like my dad. Now that's just cruel. One time I opened the links to 2 obvious spam emails, and viewed the source code to find the email address that completed forms sent to. Then I signed each one up on the other page. Hopefully the spammers would start receiving each other's spam instead of actual forms. I have no idea if it worked. Better still than annoyance, this A, costs them money, throw in some pennies for extra weight, and B, helps keep the USPS in business. Source, I'm a mailman's kid. About 8 years ago, some telephone service managed to get their services on our phone bill at our business. All 6 lines were being billed $9.95 a month for this, and nobody caught it. I called the company responsible's 800 number. It was just a recorded after hours message. I did, however, notice that the recording repeated forever, rather than once and hanging up. I took all 6 voice lines, 2 data lines, a fax line, and 4 cell phones and called the 800 number and left it on hold through the night. I figure I cost them what they cost me and we called it fair. I noticed the next month the services weren't on our bill. Frick those guys. I try to ask telemarketers for relationship advice, but it's always a super awkward situation. Every time they try to get back on track I say, oh, there's time for that later. But what about? It's hilarious. My father worked with a guy who had his dinner interrupted by a phone call from someone trying to sell windows. The person wanted to set up an appointment to talk about said windows. Father's buddy said, sure, how about you come by tomorrow, Saturday, around 7 AM. The salesman agreed. When he showed up the next day, my father's friend said to him, I don't want your freaking windows. You wasted my time last night by calling, so now I'm wasting your time by making you drive out here on a Saturday morning. Kind of harsh. You're just annoying some poor guy on minimum wage sitting in their mail department. The direct marketing manager is sat upstairs without a care in the world because 0.1% of the mailers he sends convert into sales, so, as far as he's concerned, junk mail works really well. But he did just pay for the postage. Small consolation, but hey. I fart indiscreetly in a packed elevator and let them guess who did it. No one says anything, but the awkward silence is enough to put a smile on my face. And now they know who did it. As a server I can get some really rude and cruel customers, so I go out of their way to be super nice and polite to them. It seems to pee them off an infinite times more than if I were to retaliate in a rude fashion. We've got a control freak at work. She has actually screamed at us when put in charge of small minor projects. For example, organizing a display for a company event. Then, afterwards, apologizes and sincerely and saying but she had to yell at us in order to accomplish the goal. Yeah, no. She insists on a certain arrangement for kitchen objects in the staff break room. Although the custodial staff is in charge of that, coffee maker lined up in a particular way, stored appliances rammed into a corner. So a few of us, the victimized, have taken to subtly moving things around just to annoy her. It amuses us to try to figure out which of 4 people did what, or to realize that there are others who may be doing this too. People behind me in class were commenting on the fact that I used Christmas colors, red green, to take notes, then proceeded to be about Christmas songs getting stuck in their head already. Well, prepare for Christmas colored notes for the rest of the fricking year. Don't forget to add some Christmas song lyrics in big bold colorful letters. In grade school, I was one of the few who bothered to have his parents buy a bag of pencils, so people were always borrowing them from me. So I got a pair of scissors from the art department and cut the end off a pink crayon, whittled it into a sort of mushroom shape, which I screwed into the end of a pencil, from which I removed the eraser and saved it for when the mooching started to get irritating. That prank never got old. I did this a few times. For a while I had thin strips of wood in my apartment, left over from a repair. I would jam one of those in there too. The fact that it is rigid and flexible often increases the cost of shipping, and the wood was thicker and heavier than just a few pieces of paper. I stopped because I got bored and didn't really think it had much impact. Other than that, if people behind me in line are being rude or impatient, I take as much time as possible to get through the line. Small talk with the cashier, pretending I can't find my card, etc. I always let people with fewer items go in front of me if they are nice though, or look anxious about the time. I consider myself the Robin Hood of lines. I do this for cars that are impatient at the sidewalk. Frickin' A buddy, don't pull your car into the middle of the intersection until I cross. My father used to work in marketing. At one point his company was sending out postage stamps with no postage necessary that people could fill out for a catalog. Someone taped the postcard to a big box full of scrap metal. It cost the company a shitload to ship it. Whenever I get a parking ticket or other kind of penalty, I add $0.01 to the sum, so they need to manually sort it out and account for the extra money. I wrote this back to an African email scam. Oh my goodness, I'm back. Nancy, you must let Emmy help you. Let Emmy tell you why IT's taken Emmy so long to respond to your last email. I live in a terror state in Bangladesh. You will not believe this. The rebels here, anti-government protesters armed with submachine guns and assault rifles along with rocket-propelled grenades, invaded my village. My younger brother, Sumit, was taken from me along with my parents. The rebels then tied all 3 of them to a nearby tree and made them tell jokes to the village. For each joke that received a laugh, my family members received 1 apple. But if the village was not laughing at their jokes, they suffered immense pain and terror. One of the rebels slapped my brother in his leg, really hard. His leg was red with pain for 40 agonizing seconds before turning back to normal. Then another rebel poured extremely lukewarm water on my mother's head. This is a huge embarrassment in my country. You have no idea. Then another rebel threw a dead dog at my father's feet. The suffering was unbearable. All of this happened right in front of my eyes and the eyes of the villagers. Then a fire-breathing dragon flew over the village just as the rebels were about to release my family from the grips of their terror. After having told many successful jokes, the dragon then breathed fire all throughout the village, setting ablaze one house in which all occupants safely escaped with minimal loss. Now I have limited access to email because our village is under rebel control. The rebels, however, are considering purchasing each and every member of the village their very own MacBook Air laptop so we can communicate with the rest of the world. I just received mine. This laptop has a value of $1,000. The problem is, because of my poor credit, the rebels are requiring that I pay a 1% down payment in order to keep my laptop. This is a total of $10 USD. My late great uncle, WHO, happens to live in your area in Africa, left me a trust fund of $10 and I must pay this fee to the rebels in order to keep this laptop. When I heard of this payment requirement, I immediately remembered your blessings in the name of the loving God of all ministers and happy priest Jesus Christ Almighty, Knight of the Round Table. So anyhow, please help me pay this nominal fee so I can keep this laptop and thereby help you out in the process, because as I recall, didn't you need something too? I'm a pasty white American. When approached by someone trying to sell me something, that is, at a mall, I pretend I only speak Arabic. I worked at Capital One long ago and we had a display case of things people would send with the return address portion of our envelope attached. Car parts, large rocks, bricks, whatever they could find that would send the rate meter through the roof. I'm a barkeeper. Sometimes I get belligerently drunk customers who order an extra stiff drink, double triple the amount of alcohol than what usually goes in there, and get pissed at the fact that I have to charge them $2 respectively $4 more, depending on how much more they wanted me to pour. Oftentimes, when they start an argument, try to barter, refuse to pay, anticipating that I'll just let them have the drink for the regular price. Since I've already prepared it, I'll just take the drink I prepared for them, take a huge sip and put it back in front of them with a big grin and something like, "Now you're back to regular price." They usually leave infuriated. I'm semi-drunk at work quite often. TLDR, I drink the drinks of unruly bar guests myself to pee them off. I keep getting phone calls asking for a Christopher. I have been getting these calls from the same Hindu sounding guy for 3 years. I have tried all the usual stuff to stop the calls. Last month I was out at my in-laws' house in the hills of Virginia. Magically, in a land of no service, I get a call from this guy again. I answered the phone and told him that yes, I was Christopher. He asked how I was doing. I began crying and telling him I have been having a miserable time with my life. As I told him this, I grabbed my carry piece and stepped outside. My in-laws and wife were confused and followed me. I continued telling this telemarketer how much my life sucks and how much I hate everything. He, instead of hanging up, tried to calm me down and talk me through this bit of crying. I motioned to everyone to be quiet. Placing my phone on speaker, I told him I couldn't take it anymore. I chambered around close to the phone and discharged my pistol into the ground. I let the phone drop to the ground where it disconnected. The look on my mother-in-law's face was priceless and it took everyone a bit to laugh. I then explained my history with this telemarketer, which made everything a lot more funny. I have yet to hear from this guy again since the incident. One day, my boss decided to do just this. He came by my desk as I was eating my taco lunch. He writes a little memo on the form that said "eat my shorts," and he drew a pair of shorts. He thought that was quite funny. I took a piece of juicy beef from my taco and smeared it on the shorts. I drew an arrow pointing to crap stained shorts and wrote poo. We sent it off and haven't received any more junk mail at work since. I like to think that someone was just putting in their time one day opening letters and then came across mine. I like to imagine the look of shock and disgust on their face when they see a drawing of shorts that has a brown stain on it. They know in their mind that it must be fake. Because what sick frick would smear crap in an envelope, point it out and then send it to them? Then again, what sick frick would imagine doing such a thing? I like to think that they go through a couple of different scenarios in their mind, and then make a decision and quit on the spot because they're not paid to put up with this crap. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.